Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So today is December 26th, the day after Christmas, and I won't put this video up till probably the 27th or 28th. I already put up a video for today, a voiceover about Aaron Rodgers' documentary Enigma, and all that implies. So the things I want to talk about, just this brief introduction here. You know, Netflix did football. They had two football games, which were both blowouts. You know, I eagerly awaited what I was hoping would be some sort of debacle, some glitch issues they had. They had that with the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, and you know they're broadcasting the games worldwide. And I wanted to know what they were going to do in terms of, you know, there's a crew of people that that they have employed to produce these football games. You know, there's a lot of money and people salaries and equipment and things that go into putting out a football game. And so if you only have two for the entire year, and then all those people that are there in terms of the announcers and the people who are on these panels of people who sit there and tell you about the game. They had a 2-hour pregame show, right? Which is par for the course. You know, there's 4 basketball games and 2 football games on Christmas now. It's supposed to be one of the rare times people spend time with their family. And so they hired people from other networks. They hired people who were on ESPN and some of these other networks that are CBS and I'm not sure where else to do the announcing. So I don't know how that works because I thought those people were under contract. And I don't know where they got their film crews. They did a pretty good job. You know, I really didn't watch the games. They were both blowouts and not of much interest to me. But the other thing is they had commercials, and they said it right there when you clicked. You went to click on the thing that it was going to be with commercials. Now, of course, you could fast forward through the commercials, which was good. You know, it was you didn't have to watch them if you didn't watch it live, which I never do. But these other apps like Paramount and Peacock, when they show a game, you have to watch the commercials, and you can't go back and watch it from the beginning. You have to watch it like in real time and sit there like old-fashioned TV, which is, I don't know how anybody could do that anymore. I mean, I fast forward through all the time between plays. You know, I can watch a football game in about an hour, and through all the extra points, and if I see something happens like on a punt, I'll go back and watch it. But usually it's not. But this way that they're doing sports, Netflix is grabbing more and more of the worldwide content. And Amazon Prime now is getting into it. These are multi-billion-dollar companies that are, again, have a global, people could watch these football games on a global basis because Netflix goes everywhere. And they have more and more international TV. I started watching a movie called Ferry 2. Apparently there was a Ferry 1. Ferry. It's a Spanish gangster guy who sells ecstasy. He's overweight. He's an old guy. And I know a lot of times in the movie, they dubbed in English. They kept on saying, "What do you care? What is it to you?" I really enjoy watching little bits of these foreign movies because the way that people express themselves, and you can see they have a different consciousness. But there's more and more of this global type of content happening. So there's that. And I wanted to get to a couple comments before I get to the other stuff here. Let me find the first comment here. Okay, so this person writes, this is about Matt Gaetz. No matter, not that it matters. So when you're going to write a comment, it starts off with "not that it matters." Well, then why you waste anybody's time with it? Not that it matters. Gaetz is a major scumbag, but it's a whole entrapment plot. The girl was issued a fake driver's license that said she was 18 from some guys who tried to sure Gaetz' dad's to I guess it's supposed to be sue, who tried to sue Gaetz' dad for $20 million. The whole thing for 2 years ago Class A dirtbag nonetheless. And so what they're saying is that Matt Gaetz sleeping with a 17-year-old girl, that there's this plot against him. And so, like, why are you even saying that? Like, the person's admitting that he's a scumbag. The guy goes to a college frat party and pays $400 to sleep with a girl who's, maybe lies to him and says he's 18. Now, if you're a 35-year-old man and you have to ask a girl's age to make sure she's legal, like, you should, like that's just not, maybe if you're 19 or you're 20, like that would make sense, whatever it is, right? That basketball player from Australia and the girl was in high school, but she lied to him about her age, whatever that was, that Josh Giddey. Something like that is understandable. People who are within a year or two of each other, like a senior in high school. But even that, like there was a guy in my high school, Fabrizio, I forget his first name. I could remember it, but I was a freshman, he was a senior. And he was dating girls that were freshmen, and everybody was talking about what a scumbag he was, like in my high school. I mean, if I knew about it, then everybody did, because I didn't know much of the doings that was going on in my high school. And years later, I was taking my driver's test, and the guy was like a couple towns over. Like we lived out this rural area in Connecticut, and the DMV was like 2 towns over in some little town. So I had to do my driving test, and the guy said, I don't think I was borderline whether I'd pass or not, because I was not getting a lot of driving time. Like I certainly wasn't ready to drive. And I had a couple accidents right off the bat. But the guy, he said to me, the guy Fabrizio, I go, yeah, he's a real scumbag. He dates, because that's all I knew about the guy. And I've never had a filter. And the guy goes, yeah, he does date younger girls. Like, and I was like, oh, he dated this guy's niece or daughter or something two towns over, and he passed me. I mean, he would have passed me no matter what, just from that answer, right? And then some other guy, like later on, I got stoned with this really, like a real burnout dude, real skinny burnout that didn't seem violent or anything. And he had bought some cocaine from this guy Fabrizio. Fabrizio was now like I was a sophomore in high school, I was like maybe a junior. It was after the driver's license thing. And so Fabrizio was out of school now a couple of years, but he was dealing coke to high school kids. And again, this is a real rural, low crime suburb type place. And Fabrizio went to slap him around. The guy pulled out a knife and stabbed him like 30 times. And so like that happened in a place that there was just none of that kind of stuff. But anyways, my point is that people know that like when somebody dates somebody severely younger and is like it's like being a predator, right? Even in terms of like a senior in high school dating a freshman. The difference between 18 and 14 is monumental. And the difference between an 18 or 17-year-old girl and a 35-year-old congressman and at a frat party. So there's no, why bother even, it doesn't matter what the story is, right? They could have been setting him up. Anybody could be setting him up. He didn't have to go along with it. What are you going to a frat party for? And paying for sex? Like, it's just, you're supposed to be the party of Christians and all this shit, right? You're supposed to be like the conservative party. And they're supposed to be the anti, whatever they are. Somebody just wrote this to me. Not everything round is spherical. Coins and pizza pies are round and flat. Now, I said in this video how nature doesn't like flat and straight lines. And pizzas and coins aren't that. I'm not talking about man-made objects. I'm talking about you put anything in nature and it rounds the corners. If you put a sharp object, like you see this with rocks and all these things, and things just don't have straight lines. They just, like, very seldom do you see that. The things aren't straight and flat. Everything gets rounded by the wind and the water. You take a broken glass. If you ever seen sea glass, it's broken into all these sharp shards. When glass breaks, it's like always you got all these like dangerous little sharp edges. But if you throw like something like that in the ocean, you come back, it's a round little pebble, right? It's just things wear it down. Then my point, we're talking about pizzas or coins. I hope that person was joking, but never know. So somebody wrote this to do with that. Watching you for years, did the research on flat Earth for 10 years. There's a reason pilots and snipers do not factor curve or spin. Merry Christmas. And, they always come up with these points, the flat earthers. And it's just not a flat earth friendly environment here, right? Because if you're going to start looking at facts, the flat earth model, there's no flat earth. There's no model that works for time zones. There's no explanation for the moon and the sun rotating. The firmament is just some bullshit Old Testament Bible shit. You can't call the firmament anything. Only people who think that the Bible is without flaw will buy into any of that bullshit, right? Because it's the Bible. Like it's just an old book that's been edited. The Old Testament is horrible in all kinds of different ways. It's not a spiritual book. It actually kind of blasphemes God, which I've talked about. And so you can't use that as anything, like not for other people. Amongst yourselves, if you believe in the Bible, yes, talk about firmament all you want. But if you want to go to a general audience, the Bible and the firmament aren't of actual source, right? Because the Bible's been edited and it's dated and it's the firmament. It's just like silly shit, right? If you're trying to prove that the Bible is legitimate, right, then, you're not willing to, when you are looking into it, to see like, oh my God, this doesn't support the Bible. Like if all you're ever going to do is look at whatever's going on and say that the Bible is the truth and everything else has to fold into it, right? Like if there's a flaw in it, you're going to see it and you have to accept it, and then you have to figure out what that means. If the Bible's wrong about something, and so if you're looking for the truth, that is, if you just want to prove that the Bible's right at all costs and warp and twist reality, you can't expect other people to go along with it, right? And so I don't know about snipers. This is something that flat earthers say. But the spinning of the earth is so slow that it wouldn't affect the trajectory of a bullet. The bullet, like I just looked it up, to go a mile, it takes a half a second. I mean, somewhere around that, depending on the speed and the muzzle and all these things. But, the average bullet is not going that far a distance. And, a second, in terms of the Earth's rotation, if the Earth is spinning, like is in the theory or whatever you want to call that, right? The rotation of the Earth, it's imperceivable to us. And so it's not going to affect a bullet, right? It doesn't affect you running. Like you don't have to factor it into your run. Like, as slow as human beings are, you're not even going to have to factor that. It's not like we're on the fucking treadmill and it's spinning so fast we have to, like, you know what I mean? It's like you put a ball on the ground and their spinning causes the ball to move. If you subscribe to this idea that the Earth is spinning, then you would have to, or if you want to test the theory, it's spinning at a very slow rate, given its size, right? And the other part to this is the spinning of the Earth is where you get the 24-hour day. And the spinning of the Earth makes sense not only for time zones and the 24-hour day, and then the spinning around the sun, the year, right? It also makes sense for seasons, and that the sunlight every day is either diminished or you're either adding sunlight or you're now we're adding sunlight. Like the 21st of December was the solstice. And now every day there's another minute of sunlight, or 2 minutes of sunlight, whatever it is, a minute and 20 seconds, I think. So every day there's an extra minute and 20 seconds of daylight. And so the spinning of the Earth and the axis being tilted, these all make sense. There's nothing in the flat Earth model that explains it, right? You have to look at both things equally. Like you have to say, all right, in one hand, they don't factor in, snipers don't factor in, and that's, I don't know if that's true or not. But I do know that every day it gets a little bit lighter, a little bit darker. And now it's getting a little bit lighter. And I know the seasons change. And so you have to explain that, right? Why is why is it colder now? Some of it is explained through the lack of sunlight, but the other factor is the sun is much higher in the sky during the summer, substantially so. And so how is that possible, right? And the flat earth model doesn't have an explanation. And most of the flat earth model is the flat earthers are doing is trying to disprove the round earth, right? So there's no flat earth model. You might disprove the round earth. You might prove that the round earth model doesn't make sense. You might prove that we're in sort of some simulation. At least you can disprove the round earth. But if you could disprove the round earth, again, I believe this is a simulation, so, there's that. But if you do disprove the round earth, that doesn't mean it's flat. And so the Bible's always fucked. The Bible sucks. The Old Testament is horrible. And there's no facts in it. You're not going to prove firmament because what the fuck that means, right? In Fly Me to the Moon, the guy brought up the firmament, the guy in charge of the moon landing at some Christian senator's house, right? And so, just silly stuff. There's no firmament. Whatever the fuck they didn't know what was out there, and this wasn't coming from God. This wasn't like some divine revelation. There's a lot of bullshit, including human sacrifices and animal sacrifices and cutting off the foreskins of people and bringing them to a guy to get his, a king saying to David, that David wanted to marry the guy's daughter. And the guy said, bring me 100 foreskins of the Philistines. And David was a real go-getter, so he brought 200. So he killed 200 Philistine men and then cut off their foreskins and brought them to the king. Because, that's what God does. God approves of that kind of shit, right? It's silly, right? I mean, just all the stuff that's there. It's just, there's no divine explanation for that shit, right? So, if the earth can be disproved, if you could disprove the earth is round, you still have to then prove that the earth is flat. And the criteria that we see on a regular basis, the time zones, the 24-hour day, the 365-day year, the seasons that are all, basically repetitive, like every year. And why is that? Like, what's happening? That there's these, elements and these things that we experience. And how can you make a flat earth model that explains all that? And you fucking can't. Having the sun and the moon spin above a flat earth does not work. And so these comments, like, why? Why the comment? Like, there's no reason to. I don't, the flat earth thing, we're not going to agree on it. I'm fine with it, right? But just, if you were going to, you admit, okay, I know there's no flat earth model that works. No one has an explanation of how the earth could be flat. But in terms of the round stuff, but once you say that, then the sniper comment becomes irrelevant, right? Like, it's a silly little comment because that doesn't disprove anything. Because like I said, the earth isn't spinning, according to the official story, the earth isn't spinning that fast. And so bullets will not be affected by that. Plus the bullet is in the air. So the curvature, right? If you're a sniper and you're sitting somewhere, you're drawing a straight line between you and your target, right? So the curvature of the earth wouldn't matter. Like let's say you're shooting a bird in a tree, whether the earth is round, flat, triangular, or square, you're drawing a straight line between your scope, the muzzle of your the muzzle of your gun, right? And there's a straight line from the barrel of your gun to the target. It's just like you're an arrow, like you're shooting an arrow, right? There's a straight line. You're shooting at a straight line. And so if the spinning of the earth is so slow that that's not going to factor in, and the curvature, the flatness of the earth doesn't matter. What I'm saying is if you were like submitting a thesis, you're supposed to understand the arguments against you. And I just given you a couple. Like, I don't know how much this is true. I don't know how snipers work or don't work. But a better example of this is that how does NASA shoot their imaginary rockets into space? Like, if let's say NASA rockets were actually real and they are launching them into the atmosphere, right, or whatever, satellites and things. How much do they factor the curvature of the earth? And where could you find that out? And I got a NASA thing coming up. These frickin' astronauts are somehow they brought Christmas gear for an 8-day trip, which somebody sent me. That's kind of funny. But let's say, there's, they have to factor in the rotation of the Earth as well as the curvature of the Earth. I'm not sure how they would have to do the curvature, but at least the rotation of the Earth. First splashdowns, getting things back, right? In terms of like all these things, how they have to factor these things in when they're going where these other planets are moving, right? The moon is moving as well. The moon is, according to the official story, orbiting around the Earth. So they have to, let's say they're shooting something up to the moon. Again, they have to go through the Van Allen radiation belt, which I don't know if they've ever done that or they can. So there's those things, right? But they would have to be able to read the scientific data, and I don't know how to do that. And you don't probably know how to do that either. So a lot of these things, you're always going to be guessing or taking somebody else's word for it. And like, who gives a fuck at this point? Especially since the flat Earth model, I mean, there's no flat Earth model that works, like I said. But the flat earthers themselves and the whole movement has been negative for all of us. It's been a complete drag on the truth community. At some point, you have to realize that this thing is not helping. Like, if you want to talk to your friends and have a little flat earth group, sure, or you want to do it on your own channel, great. I'm not going to go to your channel and tell you, well, you're wrong. I don't give a shit. Go ahead, do whatever, post whatever you want on your channel. It's like when you try to bring us all down with it, right? It just, it's a drag on us. Like, it's the behavior of the flat earth community that's pissed everybody off. And maybe you're not one of those people, and that's great. But there's a reason the movement died, and it died a horribly embarrassing death. And just leave it go. Let the corpse lie wherever it died in its own bad behavior and a lack of objective analysis. All right, let's get to the other stuff here. Okay, so I'm not sure when this is from. Hopefully this year. I don't know, some year. This is Melania Trump. Probably it's old, but whatever. New to me. It may be new to you.
What did you ask Santa for Christmas?
Oh, that's a nice one. I asked Santa for Christmas, peace on the world. Peace on the world.
I've seen this a bunch of times already. It's funny for two reasons. I mean, piss on the world is great. Like, it's just, because the other part to this is she has such a heavy accent. Like, she doesn't speak English well at all. And neither do I. That was not a well-constructed sentence. But she doesn't, it's in terms of a second language. Let's say your first language is English and you're a great speaker of English. You're great at articulating English, the English sentences. And so that would be, you're a 5, like as a speaker of English as a second language. And so, people would see that you have an accent, but at least you have the right sentence structure. You're not looking for words like cucumber. How you say cucumber? Like this kind of stuff. That you can, the language and you can speak it well, and maybe there's a hint of an accent. But people wouldn't even know where you're from, right? And so, it's only slight. And then there's somebody, you're good at speaking English, but you're a little bit heavier in accent. Sometimes you mispronounce words. Sometimes you mess up the structure of your sentences, right? The sentence isn't, proper. And then there's number 3, where it's like even worse than that. And so she's around a 3, like she's a 3 or a 2 in terms of somebody speaking English. And she was the first lady. She's this like mail-away bride. Looks like a dude. Has very weird tastes. And there's a great moment in the season 2 of The Apprentice, I think it is. It's either season 1 or season 2. And they go up to Trump Tower. They get the winning team. They have these competitions. And they have, 2 teams. And they have these projects. And whoever wins the project gets a prize. And their prize is they got to go up to Trump Tower and see where Trump lived in his penthouse apartment. And Melania comes out to greet them. And the one of the women on the cast says to her, you're so lucky. And she goes, and he's not lucky? I would find it, but it's, it's somewhere. And I don't think I want to look for it, but it's a great thing. And so, well, let me see if I can find it here.
We got to meet his girlfriend, Melania.
Okay, so this was from season 1 with Omarosa. I don't remember it that way, but it was the first episode, and the winning team who won their project was given this reward of going up to Trump Tower. And they show you all the gaudy stuff and over-the-top gold, everything, like just total, Trump bullshit stuff, right?
Hi, I'm Melania. Nice to meet you.
So at the time, she was only Trump's girlfriend. So that was, I don't remember that. Like, I thought they were married. And somebody asked her, how do you clean a place like this? And she goes, oh, you have people to clean it. And they all laugh. And then here's the moment.
You're very, very lucky.
Oh, thank you. And he's not lucky?
Oh, no, he's very lucky.
And here's the doofus coming in, right? The whole thing's so weird, and she hasn't gotten better at speaking English this whole time. Maybe even worse. Her accent seems to have gotten heavier, even though she's been in America this whole time. Plus, her Christmas wish was probably should have been like, I hope Donald stops banging porn stars and hookers and, and cheating. So just a bizarre thing. The whole Melania thing is bizarre, but, it's right up my alley. I mean, it's great. Like, she's so not a first lady, which makes it great.
That guy.
This barred owl is no angel, but it's now a star.
He's like, this is the perfect spot.
In fact, the owl knocked over the star to claim this perch atop the Burgoyne family Christmas tree in Arlington, Virginia.
I mean, I didn't even know what to think. I definitely didn't know what to do.
The family says the owl flew in through the chimney, soaring.
Okay, so you see the chimney here. So you could make a case that the owl could come up to this part of the chimney. But what would make it, it's not going to fly down the flue. If you see how big the opening of the flue is, and, I mean, I'm just calling bullshit, right? Now, it could totally set up a nest in here. I'm sure they get lots of birds in here. That part I believe. But for a big-ass owl like this to fly down this chimney, it can't really fly. How's it going to, I mean, it's just going to drop down. And so that's, 15, 20 feet. And then it has to go through the flue area, which you probably have closed. Otherwise, you're going to have a major draft. This is in Virginia. So if you're in Arlington, Virginia, near Washington, D.C., it's cold as shit in the winter. And there's going to be air blowing through there. And so, they don't show the fireplace. Like, let's see the fireplace. So they have a screen over the fireplace. So they have just an open fireplace with an open flue. And they got little kids. And air's coming through there. And the fucking owl flew all the way down the chimney and into their house. Like, there's just no way. Like, it's just bullshit, right?
Chimney soaring back and forth from treetop to kitchen cabinets. Sergeant Spencer Murray with the Animal Welfare League of Arlington got the call.
How hard is it then to catch an owl in a situation
This guy, look at how happy he is. This is crazy.
like this?
Yeah, any bird that's inside an open area, you kind of just have to let them tire themselves out a little bit, let them go back and forth.
Or you can open the front door. I had let out a number of birds and bats and things that have flown into my house. I've had that happen, not through the chimney, but, open windows and such. And we had a bird that was in this meditation building in Massachusetts, and it was in the ceiling. Like, there was an open, like, sort of basement area, and then there was a finished basement area. And the open basement area, they didn't have those ceiling tiles, right? And so the thing got up in the ceiling, but then it came out and was flying around the basement. I turned off all the lights, opened the door, and it flew out through the front door, right? We've had that in our barn. We have birds that go there all the time. And you just open up a door, and the light from outside, if it's dark in the barn, they'll fly towards the light, and then they'll go outside. It's not very hard. And so having the owl fly outside is a lot better than trying to catch it in a net where you can damage its wings. It's got those big talons. Like, this is just silly, right?
Took about 10 minutes before the exhausted owl was low enough to catch, then quickly release.
Out into the night.
Off into the night.
It was
But that's, why would you try to catch it when you could just let it out the door? Like, you just open some doors, and there's probably 2 doors you have. Turn off all the lights. It's dark in there. Close the, whatever it is, and then just let it fly out, right? I mean, it's not hard. Like, it wants to leave. It doesn't want to be in the house, right? There's people there.
highlight experience for Christmas season.
It conjured up memories of another owl discovered 4 years ago in the Rockefeller Center tree, fittingly given the name Rocky. As for the
Rocky
Arlington owl, this week the Animal Welfare League brought the family a new tree topper, a fake owl. They say it's a reminder to cap your chimneys, but rest assured tonight Santa will still find his way in. He is.
That's not how they would cap that chimney. Like, that is a totally different chimney than the one they had up here. I just, it seems like everything's just bullshit now. Like, just the story doesn't add up. Those, like, it just doesn't add up. So this was the Blake Lively interview where she was being a total biatch to this interviewer. And I saw the clips of this on New York Post, but I didn't watch the whole thing. And I don't know how much I can use because it's, it's a YouTube video. But I'm going to try to use as much as possible. So it starts off like this.
That's on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
Okay, so she doesn't have a bump. So Blake Lively is pregnant. So she says, congratulations on your little bump, which means she has a baby bump. And so, and then Parker Posey tries to distract or, diffuse the situation. And Blake Lively is not having any of it. She turns on this woman, is totally offended the woman pointed out that she has a baby bump, which I don't know why, it's just, maybe that's not offensive. Like, you can make something offensive, but if you're pregnant and people know you're pregnant, it's just, there's things that people say they're stupid and you can call them on it, but you're there to promote your movie. And so you have to, this is your job. You have to tolerate some stupid questions, things that you might find offensive. And this isn't offensive, right? The New York Post covered this. People were hammering her for being this much of a biatch.
What about my bump?
You've got 2 nice ones.
They are kind of bumps, aren't they?
Okay, so like the woman complimented her or congratulated her on having a baby bump, and then she starts talking about her co-star's breasts, which is far more inappropriate, right? Like, and she's not offended.
No, not bumps. The lovely lady lumps. Check it out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so then there's that. So then she's already...
You like the movie? Are you a Woody Allen fan?
I love most of his movies, and this one was so
So Woody Allen is a pedo. Like, he married his daughters, his wife's, their adopted daughter. He married Mia Farrow, and she had an adoptive daughter and some other children. One of the girls accused him of abusing her, and the other one he married. And she was like 9 or 10 when Woody came into her life. And he acted as her father. And as soon as she turned 18, they were married, which is weird. But he also has a movie called Manhattan in which he dates a girl, Mariel Hemingway, who's 15 in real life and plays an 18-year-old girl in the movie. That's a high school girl. He's dating a high school girl. It comes out, some woman comes out and says, when she was 16, Woody Allen dated her when she was in high school. So the guy hung out with Jeffrey Epstein. He's one of the real pervs that is undeniable. And he had a kissing scene with a 15-year-old girl that he wrote and directed. And it was her first kiss. She was 15, Mariel Hemingway, when she made out with Woody Allen in the movie Manhattan. Just really creepy guy, right? And this woman asked about a baby bump and she's offended.
visually amazing.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Did you guys love wearing those kind of clothes that you...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, working in digital...
So look at her, right? She's not looking at the interviewer.
Talk about the clothes, but I wonder if they would ask the men about the clothes. I would.
I love Jesse's suits and how
that's what I'm saying.
So then she just goes and talks to Parker Posey for the next 2 minutes. And she talks about how men would never be asked about these outfits, and like she's offended by this woman's questions. Like, you know, she just asked her, she said, she made a comment about her being pregnant. And then she's saying, I wonder if they'd asked men about that. And so anything that she says about this guy, and I'm not defending this guy or whatever, is suspect because she's someone who gets offended very easily. And in a way, like, you know, she talks about appearance and things as she goes through this. It gets into appearance and stuff later on. Let's move forward a little bit.
Relate to the things they were saying about Hollywood. It's so easy to get seduced by the fame and the money and the glamour.
You see it all the time. That was one of my favorite things about the movie, were the subtle...
So they move on to this. Now, she sucks as an actress, as far as I can tell, what I've seen her in. And I think there might be, she's married to Ryan Reynolds, and she might be related to somebody famous. But either way, it's her looks. I think she's gotten plastic surgery when she was 25. So it's her looks that made her, again, that's what my wife told me. I'm not, you know, don't know for sure any of these things, but I know she's married to Ryan Reynolds. And I know she was a model. And it's her looks that got her into these movies, right? And she's, you know, being a model, that's just, it's the epitome of wearing, you know, it's wearing clothes and modeling clothes and these other things. She's making a big deal about how she didn't ask about men wearing clothes. They pay attention to women's clothes, and they wear these exotic dresses and things to these, you know, Met Gala, which I'm sure she's gone to, and these other places, the Oscars and these other things, award shows. Like they're all wearing these Versace dresses, and you know, it's a much more focused. The fashion industry is much more focused on females, and she's a part of that because she's a fucking model. And that's the reason she's in these movies and married to Ryan Reynolds and this other stuff, right? And so, like, why are you being offended when this is why you're in there? Like, you're not there because you're such a great actress and such a wonderful person, right? And this is the kicker at the end here, though. Because she asked her about the Hollywood stuff.
So much more about your personal life than they do your work. And if you aren't open with your personal life, then they just make it up for you and share it
That's the media.
for you. So I think the biggest misconception I see often is people feeling like they know someone that they don't, because they know what the media has created of someone.
It's the media, but she hates Donald Trump, right? The media when it's misrepresenting celebrities, but this is the killer right here.
And the disappointing thing is when you meet the people, they're always so much more awesome than
She's talking about actresses and herself. That when you meet them, they're so much more awesome than
they're portrayed to be.
In the media. And just like people like you who portray people like me. You think you know me and you don't. And so the title of this video, the Blake Lively interview that made me want to quit my job. So this woman posts this on YouTube. And this is the thing that got Blake Lively in trouble. She somehow reversed it and turned herself into a victim by these very mild claims that she has against this guy who was her co-star and the director of the movie. This ends with us. And so, Jesus Christ, right? Okay, so this is the woman's name, Kjersta Fla. She posted the interview was 6 years old. 5 or 6 years old, some old Woody Allen movie, I guess. And she didn't post it. She posted it because she was struggling with it, blaming herself. But then after a while, she realized somebody just shouldn't behave like Blake Lively. She released it at the same time all this controversy was happening on the two of us that had to do with Blake Lively, right? And that the interview on YouTube got 6 million views. And so here's Blake Lively, Balake. This is some of her Met Gala outfits, right? So she went to the Met Gala and this superficial thing, wearing these big bows, all that kind of stuff, right? Some of her other stuff here. Like modeling clothes, that's what she's doing. Like, so she's offended by the woman asking her about what it's like to wear the clothes in that period piece or whatever it is. And so this is some of her other, being on Vogue, and she's a model, right? She does these things. And so how is she offended by this, right? Her job is to wear these clothes and try to sell these clothes through modeling them, all these poses and shit like that, right? And so, like, it's just, these people that are so easily offended. And there was nothing that woman did or said should generate that kind of response. And then all the other problems, like she's apparently just really bitchy about all these things. So here it is. Blake Lively has the subject of speculation regarding plastic surgery procedure. While she has not publicly confirmed or denied any surgeries, there are visual cues that suggest she might have undergone certain enhancements. Well, all of them do, right? So, that's, I don't know about the age that she's did it, but still, she's like, it's all these things. Balake, right? Okay, so this woman, I guess, is an independent YouTuber or something, I don't know. But she says here, so this is another video that popped up on my feed.
These are protected, and I did post another video once where a celebrity wasn't being on their nicest behavior, and I was told that you should probably take that down, and so I did. And a lot of people do. I've been contacted by probably like 6 or 7 people now who said that they had experiences with Blake Lively and that they could never go public with it because it will end their careers. Still, after all this has come out, people are scared.
Okay, so this is 4 months ago when everything was turning on Blake Lively, and now she's reversed the narrative by accusing the director and Me Tooing him over a bunch of stuff and like all that thing. So there's that. Okay, so I'll show you this in a moment, the video. Why a festive photo of astronauts stranding on the International Space Station is sparking conspiracy theories. So there's 5 people here, or 4 of them. And 2 of them have been stranded there, apparently. And I guess one of them is this woman here. I'm not sure about the story. But Elon Musk is supposed to be saving them, right? That's a whole thing. And they left in June, and they were only supposed to be up in space for 8 days. And now they're up there a lot longer. And so when the astronauts stranded on the International Space Station was pictured wearing Santa hats next to a tiny Christmas tree this week, internet commenters had questions. Butch Wilmere and Sonny Williams, after all, launched in June and was supposed to be an 8-day mission to space, but they've been stranded ever since thanks to a problem with the Boeing Starliner capsule that has meant to be their ride home. Did they take Santa hats? Did they take Santa hats with them before they launched, when commenters said, or did they knit them while they were there? These are interesting points of view, right? These are the same guys who went up for an 8-day mission in June. A third commenter joked, the Gilligan's Island tune is playing. Still others think that the presence of the Christmas decorations were a sign of a grand conspiracy. If the astronauts are really stuck in space, it's one big show. Well, yeah, it looks kind of suspicious, right? So let's show you the video here.
Welcome to the International Space Station as we get ready for the Christmas holidays. It's a great time of year up here. We get to spend it with all of our family up on the International Space Station. There's 7 of us up here, and so we're going to get to enjoy company together. And one of the best things that I like about Christmas is the preparation and just getting ready, the anticipation, everybody getting together and preparing stuff.
Okay, so they have a lot of Christmas decorations here. So there's some issues because when they shoot a rocket up to space, they're very concerned about the amount of extra weight they take on it, right? And they have all these things here that, this doesn't make things Christmassy. They're not wearing these all. This is just for a show. You don't think they put these things on and walk around the space station, right? I was watching a little Fox News thing about Christmas, and it said there's $10 billion worth of Christmas gifts that are unwanted gifts and have to be returned, or that Americans spend $10 billion, and they, at an average, they spend 2.3 years decorating, in their span of their lifetime. People spend $2.3 years of their time decorating for Christmas, right? On average, which is crazy statistics. But in terms of all this stuff, where they get all this thing. They got Rudolph here, and then, their hat. This guy's hats.
Stuff and just getting ready for the holiday, and a couple little things we have here with us to just prepare, which will be
Now, if this was, they're making this be. She just released these things, right? But it's more like they're upside down. So let me show you this, because this guy's hat's moving.
the anticipation, everybody getting together.
This is a floppy hat, right? And so if it's a floppy hat, it would be going straight up like this. Especially when they move their heads, right? Because there's, like these floppy hats would be down on the ground if there was gravity, but they're trying to make it sound like it would go straight up in the air, but that's not the case, right? If there's no gravity, the thing would move independently. It wouldn't be straight up like these guys' hats are, and her hair is straight up, right? And so it almost seems like, again, her hair isn't being held down by gravity, but that doesn't mean it's going to go. What's making it go up? Do you understand? Like, it would be maybe messy, but it would move when your head would move. There would be no gravity to affect its movement. But it wouldn't. These things wouldn't go straight up. Like, that's making it sound like there's anti-gravity and it's being pulled upwards, and it's not. And so we watch this guy's hat move here.
Preparing stuff and
See the way
just
these hats
getting
are
ready
moving.
for the holiday, and a couple little things.
And so why are these things floating, right? I mean, there was some momentum in her tossing them up. But the other part is, these things could be banging into all kinds of stuff. Like, there's no buttons, or this thing is going to get into an area they're not supposed to. Like, you don't release shit like this, just to be festive.
We have here with us to just prepare, which will be sort of fun in a couple days.
In Christmas time, the holiday season, it's about spending
this shit's just floating around
time
here
with friends and family and loved ones. This year we're going to be in orbit away from them. So we want to send our heartfelt Merry Christmas, and we hope you have a wonderful holiday. Want to also mention that we're not the only ones that are going to spend time away from our families over the holidays. There's a huge team on the ground that's going to support.
See, all right. See how his hat went sideways? Why is it going to go back
mission
straight up?
controls around the globe over the holidays, and I want to thank them for the sacrifices that they're making. Together, we work.
Who's this guy? What's this guy's story?
Hand in hand with the ground every day, and over the holidays, we keep this mission going. Merry Christmas.
And Christmas is synonymous.
It's that dude. I didn't know it was what's his name? I can't believe I don't remember his name. It's my favorite astronaut. It's my favorite astronaut.
With food and feasting, and boy, do we have a feast.
Don Pettit.
Feast packaged up here.
Don Pettit doing it.
And of course, Christmas is Christ. Hallelujah. A Savior is born.
You don't believe in Jesus and pull this bullshit.
So from all of us to all of you, Merry Christmas.
Don Pettit and another. That's Don Pettit. What's your didgeridoo, Don? I mean, all these things that they have up there. They don't have like storage. Like, they have a little bit of storage on this thing, but they don't have a ton of space, right? And so, they have Christmas decorations they get out for these goofy good Christmas messages every year, or this stuff is they have all these types of things they have stored in different places, right? Like, it's not that kind of a thing, right? It's space and weight is important to all these missions, and the whole thing, with all the doubt in the space program. In the movie Fly Me to the Moon, the guy wants Woody Harrelson wants them to put a camera on the LEM, and they're saying they're trying to cut weight, and the camera weighs whatever 3-4 pounds or whatever, and so the Channing Tatum saying there's no way we're able to do that, we're already overweight, right? We're trying to cut weight out now, and so these things are, that's how these missions are supposed to be. You can't have it both ways, right? But anyways, it just, maybe it's true. I don't know, like some odd way this is what they do. But when people start looking at your shit and they're not just believing it, like that's the problem. When you consider it a liar, and it's lots of people. There's lots of people who think the moon landing might have been faked. And it's enough of a conversation where it's mentioned, like on Practical Jokers, there was a time where one of the jokers asked somebody, he just said, what do you think about the moon landing? Like, people discuss this. And the telemetry data and the stuff to do with the, the Van Allen radiation belt and all that shit. And people understand that, there's an incentive for them to fake it. It's now in a couple different mainstream movies. There's theories and things about it. And so when you have those things and people don't, believe it, and, NASA has been very suspect, then never a straight answer, right? Then you do things like this, and you got to see how people with doubts would see it. Like, what are people going to say? They're going to say all the things you heard them say in the New York Post article, all the people trolling this now, and then just even articles in the New York Post. Like, you guys don't have a publicity team. You're totally self-unaware that nobody just thinks you're in space anymore. Like, you can't put this stuff out there and pretend that people are just going to believe it, because they don't, right? And anything that looks goofy, like anything that was suspect, is going to, be brought up. Okay, so I don't know how I ended up here, but this dude is Lauren Sanchez. It's, Jeff Bezos' wife or fiance, who apparently was she was up for a job on The View, and I didn't know any of this stuff. I don't know how this came up. Something happened, and I said that her face all messed up. Like, that's all I remembered. And my wife and I were talking about this, so I looked up to see, what was wrong with. I couldn't remember exactly what it was. I'd covered her and him a while back. Her and Kim Kardashian went on a bidding war for some dress, right? And I, just a weird looking person. And then I saw this on The View, and I'm like, wow, that's a dude, right?
And one time, I actually saw the clip. I
know there's a lot of plastic surgery, but
couldn't believe it. They pulled my hair back. They made me dress a little more conservative. And after the show, Barbara Walters pulled me aside, and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "If you're
like just the shoulders here.
You're going to go down as yourself." Oh, she goes, because if you don't go down as yourself, you're going to beat yourself up twice.
You're gonna beat yourself up twice, brah.
Yeah. And it was incredible advice. That is incredible advice. And I don't know if you remember that.
Right there. Like that, like look at, man arms just so Jeff Bezos is a trillionaire, and that's his.
I was having a tough time. I was stressed out, and you walked past me, and you're like, "Keep your chin up, kid." It was like very, it was like you.
Well, you and I auditioned together during the Hunger Games round.
Yeah. Do you remember? It was like, hey, I think you were in my seat then.
Yeah, I may be.
By the way, Hillary Clinton said something recently, and I thought it was so beautiful.
Hillary Clinton says such beautiful things.
She said, "Listen, there's so many seats at the table." And she goes, "No, they're not. Just scooch over and make room."
That's right. That's
and
right.
I like that. And that's you're like that.
You're like that. You're like that.
Very much about uplifting. Lauren. Yeah, you really are.
Hillary's coming on. When is she coming on? Next week?
Next week, I think.
Next Thursday.
Yes.
Well, Lauren, on top of your incredible resume, which we will get to, you were also engaged to Jeff Bezos. You say that when he proposed, you kind of blacked out. What was the proposal like, and what?
Okay, so whatever's going on there with Jeff and his dude. So I want to get back to this thing here. This is the NORAD Santa thing here. So now I remember. My wife was telling me about, we went for a walk, and she said that there was an image or an exchange between Jeff Bezos and a employee. And they were showing during this time period how much each person made. And the guy was on like 22 cents, the guy Jeff Bezos was talking to. And he was on $8,000 already, like just in terms of like this short exchange. And then I was talking about, I don't know how we got talking about his wife or his fiance, and I said, you know, she's really like messed up. Like her plastic surgery is really bad. Like I had seen a little bit of her before, and then when I showed my wife this video, I like searched it, you know, searched for something to show. I'm like, oh my God, and we were looking at it going, she's definitely got some manly stuff going on there. So this was, you know, the whole NORAD tracker thing. And somebody sent me this thing that it started years ago where kids started to call NORAD or, you know, whatever it was back then, 50s or whatever, 60s, and ask where Santa was. And the guy first blew it off, but after a bunch of kids called, they started to lie to the kids. And then they developed this, whatever it is, this thing they do. And they have all these people volunteering their time doing this work to, you know, create this illusion that there's all these places that Santa has delivered presents to. You know, people are saying, well, Santa isn't getting out of his sled because, you know, whatever. He's just throwing shit out of his sled like these little gems. They're supposed to be presents. But the length they'll go to cultivate and perpetuate this goofy lie, right? You know, like, I mean, it's more than just some, you know, innocent little thing that people do with their kids and say that there's this guy, you know, that the Santa Claus myth. There's much more to this thing. So this is this stoner girl who is, you know, just making the rounds, and she's just letting it fly. This is about Joe Biden's mental decline.
And we weren't allowed to ask. And so it was very surprising. And that family member had actually flown across the country for this. So he kind of felt that.
When did you first notice? When did you first notice that he was declining?
I think I also was just hoping for the best. And I still, to this day, I love him as a human being. And I'm very...
Yeah, come on.
I'm very sorry. This is the truth.
So before you lie, let's just, you know... I'm not being salacious. That's what Joe Biden would say. This is my word as a Biden. You know, just like, if you have to say it's the truth, then that means you're lying the rest of the time, right?
I knew something was accelerating, I think, in 2023. I think actually, to be honest, I think he was pretty much fine in 2020. I'm trying to be as fair as possible, and I didn't see it.
He wasn't fine. He was 2019. There was mental decline. I mean, so much so that, you know, they knew that they couldn't campaign with this guy normally. He was just gone, right? It wasn't him just being old. You know, Trump has got mental decline, and he's sharper than Biden now. It was back in 2019. Trump now is sharper than Biden. You can see there's a decline there. And, you know, we all have it. As you get older, your body and your mind don't function the same way. And, you know, when you're walking differently, when you see people walking differently and their body's stiff and they start having issues with internal organs and you don't digest your food the same way, you don't exercise the same way, and everything doesn't function the same as good as it did when you were younger. Every part of your body, your eyes get worse, you know, all of it. Your body is now in decline, right? This is happening to me. It happens to everybody. As you get older, you pass 40 and you get into your 50s and 60s. And, you know, I mean, it started happening to me in my 30s, you know, where one time I went to play basketball and I was like, you know, I was maybe 29, 30, something like that. And I was like, wow, I'm playing as good as I ever did, right? And the next day, I woke up and every part of my body was sore. Like I hadn't played basketball in a while. And I went out and played, and I'm like, wow, I'm just as good, even better, because I'm mentally, you know, better. And I hadn't played in a while, so it was kind of fun. And then I was so sore the next day, and I'm like, oh, wow. And then I realized it was harder for me to recover than when I was in my 20s, right? You see athletes, they're retiring in their 40s, and there's a decline in their 30s, even with all the technology and all the things that they do. And then in your 40s, these other things start to decline, and you're not as sharp mentally. Because if all your rest of your body is declining, you'll think your mind is. So your mind starts to decline when you're in your 40s and 50s. And, you know, you might be, and you have wisdom, you've slowed down, and you see things better. And you lived a whole life. Like, I'm functioning better now than I've ever functioned in my life. Like, I finally get it. Like, I just, you know, I've cracked the code on my particular life. And now I'm facing death, right? That's just like the irony of the thing. That's why I say it's just not so much time. But when you're in your 70s and 80s, there's significant decline, and your energy level, you don't have as much, you know, jing or prana, you know, life energy, creative force. And Joe Biden was showing it. And he obviously has something like some, you know, which is Parkinson's, according to the doctor that I showed you. But like he was there. It was back in 2019. They should have never run him for president. I mean, they did. They you know, whatever they did there. But they all knew. Everybody knew that he was in mental decline back then.
Any signs of cognitive decline in 2020, and I was on the campaign trail with him. I also raised money for him in 2019. I was in San Francisco with him the day after Kamala Harris attacked him on the debate stage. He was definitely sharp then, at least from my point of view. It became clear that something was different in 2023 and then 2024.
And you came forward, you said, in July. What did you
on Fox News Sunday.
You know, what you're saying, like what she's really saying here, which I don't know whether she's aware of it or not, but Joe Biden was in mental decline in 2019. He called that guy fat. He challenging people to put push-up contests. He was getting angry. They couldn't campaign with him. They had to hide him away. They used COVID as an excuse to hide him away. They knew they couldn't roll this guy on a campaign trail. He wasn't up for it. But she's saying he was sharp enough in some of her interactions. And maybe, you know, he had maybe a lot more good days than bad days. Okay, sure. But he had cognitive decline. He had some kind of cognitive issue and physical issue, which was Parkinson's. According to that doctor that to me was just an epic report. I did that the guy was interviewed by MSNBC, and he said that a first-year medical student would be failed if he couldn't diagnose Biden with Parkinson's just by looking at him, right? And so, there's that. But what she's saying is that there was a decline from 2020, but he wasn't great in 2020. And I think Obama told him not to run in 2016, or Obama endorsed Hillary, because he thought Hillary, who had passed out, Hillary had fainted 7 times. 7 times that I know of. There's 7 recording times of Hillary Clinton fainting and, you know, falling downstairs and all these things, right? She was in India. She couldn't walk down the stairs. She couldn't walk upstairs, 5 stairs with her husband. She fell and knocked herself out. She broke her some kind of arm or, jaw or something. She was passed out a number of times, even before she ran for president. And then she passed out that time they were trying to get her into the car, and they scooped her up and put her in the car. And and I thought that was because she's an alcoholic and maybe, whatever. But she was considered better candidate than Biden. Biden was the vice president. She was Secretary of State, right? And so this woman's saying that he declined from 2020. But I'm sure he was showing signs in 2016. And he had retired then, right? He was done. He didn't run for... He tried to... he looked into running for president in 2016. CNN did a hit piece on him. And there was everyone saying, no, don't do it. You're a groper. These are the things we're going to bring up. David Letterman did a thing. Daily Show did a thing about him snoozling and groping. CNN did a thing. They said, yeah, if you run, we're going to post all this shit and you're going to embarrass yourself. So he didn't even run for president. Hillary Clinton, of course, lost to Trump. And they exhumed this corpse in 2020 with full knowledge that he was having mental decline, right?
What did you say?
I went on air to say it.
And how was it received? You say you were crucified.
Not well.
By who? By
That's
who?
Why, yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. But by who? Who? Where was the backlash? Where was it coming from?
The liberal leftists who are attacking me now. The same people, the same group of people I've lost tens of thousands of followers this week. I've been called a number of names I won't repeat here, simply for stating the truth and asking questions about how the finances of the Harris campaign were handled. It's the same bunch of people who attacked me in July. I went on Fox News Sunday on July 21st. I remember that day because a few hours later, President Biden stepped aside. And honestly, I can't believe I'm sharing this, but the day before my Fox News Sunday interview, somebody from the White House called me. And I don't know if people know this, but before Fox News Sunday and Meet the Press interviews, they're all, the day before, they're all listed in Politico. So the White House found out that I was speaking to Shannon Bream, and they called me the night before and said, "You're one of the president's most loyal supporters. We know you're going to stay loyal." And as someone who's watched The Sopranos and is a huge Godfather fan, I mean, it just sounds like something. It just sounded like mob speak almost. Like, it's a nice position you have there. It'd be a shame if you lost it, kind of.
Did you perceive it as a threat when they said that?
It was the most, it was the friendliest threat possible. But.
Okay, so, this girl's just going on and saying all this stuff. But whatever her position is, Joe Biden had his mental decline began as early as 2016 when he was vice president. I mean, your mental decline is happening all the time for everybody. But he had real cognitive issues. And he wasn't great beforehand. He was a plagiarizer, a liar, piece of shit. He had to quit his first, when he ran for president, they called him plagiarizing in like 1982 or something, 1980s. And then he ran 3 more times and nobody wanted him. Like, nobody wanted the guy. Like, he was never a serious candidate for president. The year Obama made him vice president, he didn't even run. If he did, it was like he dropped out early. And so it was weird that he chose Joe Biden because, it wasn't weird because the vice president's always somebody who's not as good as the president. The vice president's supposed to make the president look good, right? And so, it's not a coincidence that Joe Biden was a disaster as president because he was, always a disaster, right? Like, this is how he was beforehand. And then now he's got mental decline. He has cognitive issues. Trump says he'll seek the death penalty for rapists, murderers, and monsters, right? Which this is 3 days ago, December 24th, the day before Christmas. Merry Christmas, right? But then this clown, Matt Gaetz, I got a great note from President Trump. House probe into Matt Gaetz relies on witness DOJ found lacks credibility. Matt, very unfair. So right after Matt Gaetz, they released the report of Matt Gaetz. The guy he paid, I just covered this earlier with this comment in the beginning of the video, but this is a follow-up. And so we know in terms of what they released, and these are Republicans, and these aren't rhino Republicans. I mean, some of them aren't Trumpers maybe, but these are Republicans. And Trump nominated this guy to be in charge of the laws, the federal laws, right? In charge of the DOJ, Department of Justice. And so, this guy, Trump's a nightmare for saying that, like, he thinks rapists should be killed, and this guy committed statutory rape on a young woman who he paid $400 or $200 or $400 to, I think it was $400 to be sleep with her at a college party when he was a congressman. And so, this is the ethics complaint. And this is how degraded everything is. He kept his job. Like, he was still, they did this investigation, found out he went to a college party. He paid a girl who, lied about her age. But like I said in the comment, if you're a grown-ass man and you have to ask a girl how old she is to make sure she's legal, then you're a scumbag, right? How are you, if you don't know, you're wondering the girl might be in high school or freshman year in college. If she's 17, and 364 days, old, and her next day is the birthday, she's turning 18 the next day. There's no difference, right? Legally there is, but she's still the same person she was a day ago. It isn't like when you have a birthday, you're significantly older than you were the day before your birthday, right? You're only 1 day older. And so, she was a high school girl in her junior or something who was 17 years old, was at a frat party. She was on ecstasy or something. People have said that, this person wrote a comment saying it was a setup. But this guy's a scumbag. And Trump wants to punish these people. Well, he says he does. but then he hires them, right? Like there's another guy who's confused. There's the other guy, whatever his name is, the guy for the Defense Department, like he was accused of all this stuff, right? As well. And so the accusations could be false, but these guys are scumbags anyway. There's other behaviors that are there. And this accusation isn't false. Like they found this to be true and they released this report, right? And so, this is where Trump is a lying piece of shit, right? Because he says he wants to be hard on these types of people, but not people that are like him, or frat boys that are in his club, right? Like he wasn't hard on Jeffrey Epstein, who was, should Jeffrey Epstein got the death penalty? Well, he kind of did, right? But Trump says he likes them young. Like this, Trump isn't one of you. He's not concerned about this stuff. Like he says something like this, but he doesn't mean it. Like he doesn't mean any of this shit, right? He doesn't. And so, like Trump is, he can't be trusted because he's Donald Trump. Like he's just, his lying is what he does, right? Selling. He's a salesman. And so, Zach Guilford shares shocking photos of his swollen face. What happened there? Why did that go away? Oh, here. It went down to the bottom. This guy is an actor. And look at his face. So that's, I wonder if that has to do with the bloop. I don't know what happened yesterday, but so yesterday was fun. So that happened. Brandy Glanville reveals candid emotional details after her debilitating face parasite. I got all kinds of shit going on here. Here's her face. Like I've seen, I don't kind of know who she is. I think she was on a season of the my wife and I watched that show, the Traders, and they had these these fake celebrities, but her face is like, I guess that's a face parasite, but it's also the plastics there. It looks just gross. Okay, let's move on here. Okay, so they slow this down. Like they did this to Nancy Pelosi to make her sound drunk, but she sounded drunk when she said this. This was her first message when she came back after losing. And so she sounded drunk and they made her sound drunker.
I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you.
This works well.
You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose that you did.
Voting isn't much of a power and purpose, right? So what are you talking about? Like, what other things are the people that voted you going to do? Most people, they go and they pull a lever. They don't vote in their local elections. They don't do anything else. Like, this is all they do. Like, they vote every 4 years for president, and, that's about it. They don't vote in the midterms. Like, there's much bigger turnout, right? It's like twice the number of people vote for in the presidential election that vote in the midterms, and don't vote in their local elections, and they don't do anything on a civic level, and so they just go and do what they do, and then they express their voting opinions every 4 years. And so what the fuck's she talking about, right? Like, this is, most people nothing's going to change for them. Maybe they're a little bit more activated when Trump gets elected, but I think people have just moved on from the whole thing. They were disgusted by Joe Biden. The people who voted for Trump this time and voted for Biden last time, they didn't like Kamala Harris. I don't think people are that psyched about Kamala Harris. They don't think Trump is as bad. Maybe it's been softened a little bit with these fake assassination attempts and things. It's just all of these things, right?
And you have the same ability to engage and inspire. So don't ever let anybody or any circumstance take your power from you.
They did a good job. This is, again, they manipulated this, but just the way she was kind of drunk already. She seemed drunk or on drugs or something, and she was disheveled. This is what she actually looked like. And so, and then they just slowed it down a little bit, and this codename Cooter Brown. She's back, y'all. Just, 5-star. Okay, my wife has sent me a few orb things.
Are back. Drone in the air and motherfucking orbs in the fucking distance. What the fuck? Red orbs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Looks like they're fucking coming from whatever the fuck that is. I don't know, dude. New York City, the Bronx.
Okay, so those are either drones or orbs. I don't know how close they get here to the...
Got orbs and a fucking drone. Holy shit. I never thought I'd see it, but I'm fucking seeing it right here, right off my fucking balcony. Bronx, New York. New York City. Here's the train for reference. But we got orbs in the distance. I don't know.
It's the configuration of the lights. Like, this is a cluster of something. There, why would all these things be here? Drones don't interact with each other, at least I mean, they're tiny, and I've really flown a drone. I don't know that much about them, but it's not like they're social, right? It's not like you put a drone up there and have a conversation with another drone person through the drone, right? There's no coordination between drones unless there is. Like, if you were military, you would have a bunch of drone operators in the, let's say that we had multiple drones in an area, and they were all sitting in some room in Wisconsin or something, and they're in some country in the Middle East, and they have these drones in the sky, and there's a coordination of it, right? A coordination of that or whatever. These are, I don't know what these are here, but there's a cluster of them,
I don't know. Orbs in a drone. Drone's still chilling. Wow. Holy shit.
Twitter, what are you saying? You've seen something you've never seen before. What is that? You can't see, focus, it doesn't...
Okay, so there's these things here. There's one over there.
Like planes or something? That is going mad fast.
Anyways, so there's those, and there's another one over here. Okay, this is another orb. So it's hard to see what that is. But whatever. So, it doesn't look like it's something a human could build, right? Based on the rotation that's there, and I don't know if they're losing it here. But it must be high enough where it's you can't get it. The person's not getting it good. Yeah, so there's that. I don't know how much I have been watching the news, and also it's Christmas time, but the drone story seems to have died. And I was talking about this with my wife. I said it here before. That when they don't give a story booster shots and they don't have additional rollouts of something new, like, it has to go up in intensity, right? So you have the initial story. You saw this with the Luigi Mangione thing. You have the initial story, the shock value of the, assassination attempt thing that happened, whatever it was, right? Whatever you want to believe about that. And then you had the manhunt, and then they found him, and then they released his manifesto and the information about him and the evidence, and then they had him going into the courtroom in New York, the extradition, and now the story's kind of dead. Like, they don't have any more, they don't have any more juice, right? They don't have nothing else to roll out. And so this, if you Google drones in the news on Google, there's nothing here, right? In terms of the drone stuff here, news about drones, Ukrainian stuff, conflict in Russia. Two Florida tourists spot drones and shows follow a separate incident. Boy in hospital after drones fall from the sky in Orlando. Some of these other things, North Korea. News about UFO drones. Former defense official makes Earthside UFO revelation explained. So then I searched Orbs, and there's this guy. We showed you this guy, a little interview that he did. How to Get Exalted Orbs in the Path of Exile 2. Dirty Bomb, Alien Holograms, Orbs, Drone Mania unleashes conspiracy theories. That's a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Mystery orbs appeared to hover over Minnesota's sky. And so the story, there's not really anything new here. This guy went on, ex-astronaut encounters mysterious flying orbs 9,000 feet in the air. I thought this was from a while ago. I'm not sure, but I showed you a video with him. Same story here in India today. Amid UFO sightings, ex-NASA pilot claims he nearly collided with mysterious metallic objects. They came out of nowhere. I showed you this guy's interview. And so, ex-commander recounts eerie near collision with mysterious metallic orbs while piloting private plane. And then this one here, same thing. NASA astronaut admits he's the other thing, same thing. So, the story just has died. Because there needs to be something more. Like, there needs to be like a big spaceship, at this point for UFO something, and people would still not believe it. But there needs to be like a giant spaceship hovering over a city in America where it just sits there and people are like, all right, this is not, they're fucking aliens are here, right? Something like that. Like it needs to move to something to that level. And even that could be a hologram or some bullshit thing. So, and people will see it as that. Anyways, so just to wrap this up, just a few more things about this drone orb thing and then all this stuff in general. Like I get a sense, at least that's how I feel, and I think other people are feeling the same way, whether they're aware of it or not. Like, just let's get it over with, right? Like, there's a just let it happen thing. That's one thing. But there's something where like, when you're a kid, you had to get a shot at the doctor's office or, you just get it over with, right? You're going to have to do something unpleasant. You have to visit somebody. You have to spend time at your in-laws' house or something. You have to, there's a kind of funny video. I'm not going to post it here, but this guy is, I don't know if he's Hispanic or pretending to be Hispanic, and he's crying because he thinks Trump's going to deport his mother-in-law, and he gives her her address and a description of where she lives, and that she doesn't have any dogs or any impediments to being. And he's like, "What would my life be if she was deported?" And he's like pretending to cry, and he's talking about how she's here illegally. It's kind of funny. But, you got to do something unpleasant. There's things you just have to, it's going to suck and you have to deal with it, right? And I think that people are just ready for that thing to happen. Like, it's just this sense of impending doom, whether it's World War III or, I'm going to read these prophecy things in a bit. Maybe I'll work on that more today. I don't know. I'm wrapping this video up, and I'm not sure whether this is going to be up tonight or tomorrow. Today is Friday, December 27th. But my videos are getting nothing for views. It's under 3,000. I don't know if that's people are busy during the holidays or whatnot, or, I don't know. So it's not even like, at this point it's, I'm still going to make content, but I don't need to rush things out, and, I can work on my other stuff and come up with a plan like I said I was after the election. That was my whole thing, and I'll talk about that in the beginning of a video. But I think people are just over it, right? They're just, they realize that, everything's going to go south, and they get a sense of an apocalypse coming and just all of these things, right? And, the other thing about this to do with the aliens, there's been substantial evidence. I mean, if you have cave paintings of astronauts and, all around the world, and you have these pyramids that are built all over the globe, who was building pyramids in both Peru and Egypt? Why are there pyramids in South America and Europe and Africa and Egypt? Egypt and Africa, but these other places, Russia, like there's pyramids all over the world. There's some of them have turned into mountains where there's these pyramid-shaped mountains, but they realized that this was a building that has now nature has claimed and has grown, trees and things on it and all the rest of it. There's now topsoil and things like that. And I'm sure there's things that are buried, even more ancient things. And, this technology to build the pyramids we don't have, and, all the stuff to do with the pyramids. But why are they all across the globe when there was no, the people from Egypt were not communicating with people in South America? I mean, based in this idea of primitive, there was no planes and ships and things like this. People were not interacting in these two places. Why were there pyramids built, in similar time periods all across the globe, right? And so there's all this evidence like this, and I've showed the UFO video. I have a compilation of all these different artifacts, and there's just reports, and there's books about this, and Chariots of the Gods or whatever it's called, that documented news articles that were about, space people, right? Like shit like that, or weird shit that happened. And so, but like you have this evidence in the way that they've covered it up, all the evidence that there was giants here and things like this. There's evidence about these things, and then they've just covered it up. And, that's kind of well known. And so, how did these storylines move forward? Like there's a point where, this is kind of a moment of truth. Like we've entered into a time where bullshit is just not, like people don't accept bullshit the way they used to. And the news media keeps on lying. The government keeps on lying. They haven't changed their behaviors, but people are just not into it. And they're clearly rebelling against all that shit, which, was inevitable. Like why wouldn't that happen at some point? And there's just a time of change, and there's things, people can feel it. Like you can feel something coming, right? You can feel that there's things coming. You might not know exactly what they are, but you're just waiting for them to come. And whatever those are, whatever they are, when they show up and these things start happening, you'll feel like, yeah, that's kind of right. That's what I've been thinking. I've been feeling something, right? I've been feeling that there's going to be something that just, it's coming around the corner. And the other thing is that there is a growing dissatisfaction with life, life the way it is. Like people aren't realizing it, but like, you can feel like a malaise or just, this again, like everything's become more redundant. People are aware of just, I think they're questioning their, this is partly due to the internet, but I think it's a phase that you're going through. Things are going to happen because they're going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. There's some things that are just destined to happen. It's just a matter of when, not if. Like that's the things that are when things that are not if things. And the if things are things you imagine or you contemplate, or maybe a past life memory or something that, may or may not happen again. There's some things that, are potentially going to happen, but you can work your way out of it, or you can change things or whatever. There's things like that. But then there are the when things that are going to happen no matter what. And like as you get closer to those things, they become more and more unavoidable. And, those things unfold, and sometimes they're big things, sometimes they're small things, but they're going to happen. These are things that you're going to experience in your life, or people are going to experience collectively. And, this day, the people are like, life has become mundane for people, I think, more and more. There isn't, so much an explosion of excitement. Like, what's the next big thing? Something on the internet, like you see that people are less and less on social media. Like social media, the way it is now, is in decline. And, no one watches the news anymore. Like there's just a dissatisfaction with all of it. Like people have been too saturated, I think, by information. Whatever it is, whatever people are feeling, just a malaise and just, let's just waiting for something to change. Like it's, like a thing where you're in limbo. Like we're in a place where it's limbo, and it's the calm before the storm. I've been really tired. My wife and I have been tired the last, couple of weeks, and the winter's been harder on me. Like I usually walk around in shorts. Our house is around 68 degrees. Like it's hot in the bedroom where I do my, it's just hotter in here where I make the videos. And sometimes, I have the covers on, but usually I'm just sitting in the bed with shorts on. And, once in a while I put on a sort of a long sleeve t-shirt over my t-shirt. And, I go outside. We have these, my wife had got these snowsuits. So we go walk with dogs, and, You know, sometimes it's been really cold, 20 degrees, but today's like 50, and it's raining. It's pouring out there. It was 50 yesterday. And, you know, I'm still kind of like not, I mean, 50, I could wear shorts usually, especially when I'm used to the winter cold. And so, I don't know what's going on. Like maybe it's just, it's an age thing. You know, I'm still taking those cold water baths. It's like maybe I got like kind of a chill thing happening. But I feel like really lazy and just, I just need to, it's almost like I want to hibernate. And, I mean, I don't know if it's just preparing for what's coming. I had 3 good sittings last night. Yesterday I did the intensive 3 sittings in one day. It was a deep clean. It's the best one I've ever done. The sittings have become more intense. There's things going on, with that. But as as we move through the New Year's, I'm going to read these prophecies. And one of them is supposed to happen like the end of 2025, 26. It's not, it's a very vague date, but it's in 25 years from 2001, February, when the message was given. And then, whatever's going to unfold between now and then, if it's a World War III thing, which they talk about these nuclear bombs, and if these things are going to happen, they might not, but if they, I think they are. And so, for me, I'm going to express these things here. But if these are the things that are going to happen, there's going to be, drastic events that happen that transform the planet and, our lifestyle and all these things. And then, there needs to be, well, what do we do from there? Like, how do we rebuild things better? And so these are the big unknowns. Like, is there going to be sort of a collapse of our system? And is there going to be enough, goodwill and, people of higher caliber to realize the error of our ways and manifest something better? Like, these are the big questions of our time. Because clearly what we're doing now is like, it's complete shit, right? I think most people can agree that we're going in the wrong direction. They might want to blame one group or another or, exclude their group or themselves. So that is whatever it is. But aside from that, everyone kind of understands we're going the wrong fucking direction. So, what do we do about that? Like, what's going to happen to turn that around? And it's over generations. Like, my entire life, each generation gets worse than the last. I mean, just in the sense of withdrawal from life for these kids who've grown up on the internet. That alone was enough to condemn their generation, but all the other moral things that they're doing and, all the rest of these, the messages that you see and all the stuff they do with the way they characterize these new TV shows and movies, there's all this stuff that's woke agenda stuff. And now, like, it's going to probably reverse itself because the stuff that you're seeing now was made a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever, right? When the woke agenda was in its heyday. But now, like, clearly it's gone the other direction. But either way, young people are really confused. Like, no matter what, just the difference between, these points of view and just all of it. At the very least, they're really confused. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. I'm starting to just ramble. The change is upon us. Like, that's just it. There's going to be changes, and I think people are craving change, whether they know it or not, right? They're just, it's like our civilization's kind of jumped the shark, and people are over, they're bored with it and over it in one way or another, each person experiencing it, and just wanting something different, but really not being able to do anything ourselves. I mean, Trump being elected is, a vote for change. Like, it's not that it was a vote for Trump. Like, people just are tired of the same old status quo. And any vote for him or any of these other candidates, like, Trump's a disaster, and they still vote for him anyway. And he's, complete fraud for, what he is. And yet, people know that. Like, there's people who love Trump, and, they've hitched their wagon to him, their psychological wagon, and their inability to face the truth about a collapsing civilization. People wanting some, Hail Mary desperation thing to happen. It's just not going to happen. But, you get to a point where, like, oh, how many Super Bowls have we had? How many World Series are there? How many Olympics are there? How is this next one going to be different from all the rest? We want something new. Like, this is just, these old things just aren't, people are like, kids aren't into sports. And, of course, they have a different lifestyle and upbringing than we have. But, what's new going, not these liberal kind of, Hollywood morality shit that people have, known about for years. It's been around. It just hasn't been forced on the average person. But these are all self-destructive things, right? This attitude towards gender that's been pushed by the liberal, movement, the anti-Trump people, and this liberal movement that pushed it, this pseudo-liberal, this, these are like the neoliberals, right? The neocons, like they're the fake liberals, because they're not liberal at all. They don't follow these same principles. They're into allopathic medicine, when true liberals were all about herbal medicine and anti-pharmaceuticals and all these other things. Health food, right? I mean, why is it that a Republican has to push for healthy food? Like it's silly. Michelle Obama supposedly had a garden in a organic garden in the White House, but why is the Democrats the ones pushing for this, this food system to stay the way it is, right? And so, like, people have had enough, and they're just, like I said, it's like jump to shark, and are craving change to whatever capacity. And that, more than anything else, is just adjusting to what's going to happen. Like accepting on some level that this is happening, and, not really wanting it to happen because of fear of the unknown and a lack of life energy, a lack of ability to adapt and change, because most people can't, especially to the kind of changes they're going to need to embrace. But, this is like how people feel before things go tits up, right? Whether it's just a small thing, like in your own personal life, there's always this sense, there's this foreboding. You're prepared, you're warned. Like, very few things should be shocking to you. They'll still be shock, but like you knew something was coming, right? Because, there's some things that happen in life that if you didn't have some sort of premonition about it, you couldn't handle it when it happened. It would be too much of a shock, right? And so, anyways, again, let me just wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing for the Apocalaughs and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.